She wasn't supposed to be there. Not alone, not this far from the ranch, and certainly not near the ridge where the Lakota roamed freely. But Clara Madden had always been drawn to what her family feared. And today, that draw had a heartbeat. He stepped from the trees like something the wind had carved, tall, bare-chested, wrapped in quiet. Their eyes met before words could. Her pulse stuttered. His didn't. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "Neither should you," she answered, chin high but breath trembling. He looked away, a small smile tugging the corner of his mouth. "You followed the deer trail," he said, nodding toward the prints she hadn't noticed. "So did I." They stood inches apart and lifetimes away. Clara had heard the names her father called his kind: savages, thieves, threats, but nothing about this man, this warrior, looked threatening. He held a handmade flute in his hand, not a weapon. "I've seen you," she whispered, "by the river. You never looked up." "I did," he replied. "You just didn't see me?" That made her laugh, and it cracked something open between them. He told her his name was Tahu. She said hers like it mattered. Clara. He repeated it slowly, as if tasting it. The air around them thickened, not with danger, but with a pull stronger than either could name. Minutes passed like hours. They didn't touch, didn't need to. The space between their breaths did all the speaking. But when a hawk screeched overhead and Tahu's eyes flicked toward the hills, the spell broke. "Go home," he said. "Your people are looking." "Will I see you again?" she asked. His silence was answer enough. She turned and walked the path she'd come from, heart racing, cheeks flushed, the name Tahu echoing inside her like a drumbeat. She didn't look back. She didn't have to. She knew he was watching. That night, around the fire, her brothers spoke of land disputes and border tensions. Her father muttered about teaching the Lakota a lesson. But all Clara could think about was the warrior who spoke softly, smiled shyly, and didn't belong in their war, only in her heart. Clara didn't wait for fate. The next morning, before the frost melted from the grass, she saddled her horse and rode back toward the ridge, heart pounding with both fear and certainty. She didn't bring food or letters, only the memory of his eyes, and the ache of something unfinished. At the stream, where the water whispered secrets to the stones, he was already there. As if he knew, as if he had waited. Tahu didn't speak at first. He simply reached out and offered her the flute. She hesitated, then took it. The wood was smooth, warm from his hand. "I carved it when I couldn't sleep," he said softly. "I thought of you." No one had ever said something like that to her, not in a way that mattered. Her heart tumbled into her chest like a stone dropped from height. "They'd never allow this," she said, eyes down. "I'd be sent away, or worse." He nodded. "And my people would say I've lost my path, that I've let the wind twist my heart." They were both quiet again. The river hummed between them. She stepped closer. "Then let's meet here," she said, voice thin but steady. "No one has to know." He looked at her like she was the sun breaking through storm clouds. "Then we do this in truth," he said. "Not stolen, not hidden, but for us." And so it began. Days passed, then weeks. Each time the world spun, they found each other again. Between pine trees, under starlit skies, beside quiet creeks where words didn't need volume. Tahu showed her how to read animal tracks, how to listen to the wind. She taught him how to say hope in English. He taught her the Lakota word for soul. They never spoke of tomorrow, only of now. But love, like fire, leaves traces. One afternoon, Clara returned home with her braid undone, a smudge of ash on her dress from their shared fire, and eyes too bright to hide. Her brother Matthew noticed first. "You've been wandering too far," he muttered. "Best remember who we are." She smiled, said nothing. But when her father stood in the doorway that night, holding her mother's old locket and asking where she'd really been, her heart twisted. Somewhere, Tahu had just lit a fire for her, and somewhere else, her family was getting ready to burn down everything that connected them. The first threat wasn't spoken, it was carved. Clara found it the next morning, etched into the wood post near the barn. No mixing of blood, no shame in this house. Her stomach turned. Only one person could have done it. Matthew. She didn't cry. Instead, she rode out, faster than before, brushing through thorn brush and kicking up dust as if outrunning judgment itself. When she reached the hidden glade, Tahu was crouched near the creek, skin damp with morning light. He saw the fear in her before she spoke. "They know," she said. "Not all the way, but they suspect." Tahu's jaw tightened. "Then we stop." "No," her voice cracked. "I'd rather burn for something real than live for something fake." That silenced him. Slowly, he stood and brushed his hands clean. "Then you must know what comes next." "I don't care what they say," she said. "You're not a threat. You're not the enemy." He didn't answer right away. Then, "But to them I am, and to my people, so are you." She hadn't thought of that, not truly, but truth didn't change love. It only sharpened its edges. They stayed until the sun reached its peak, and when he held her that day, it wasn't soft or timid. It was a goodbye that hadn't found its voice yet. Back at the ranch, the tension hung thick. Matthew followed her with narrowed eyes. Her father, once loud and brash, had gone quiet. Too quiet. That night she overheard them whispering with neighbors. "They've been seen near the border," one man said. "We settle this before they push further." "We teach 'em what it means to trespass," another spat. "We've got rifles. They've got arrows. Won't be much of a fight." Clara sat frozen behind the pantry door, her chest hollowing. They weren't talking about territory. They were talking about Tahu's people. She ran outside, bare feet on cold ground, heart hammering. At the edge of the woods, she scribbled a message on bark and wedged it under their usual stone. "They're planning something. Be careful, please." The wind shifted, leaves trembling as if the forest already knew. And far beyond that ridge, Tahu knelt near his own fire, staring into flames that suddenly felt colder. Because when love walks into war, someone always ends up bleeding. The letter reached him with the weight of thunder. Tahu turned the bark over in his hands, reading the fear behind every stroke. "They're planning something. Be careful, please." He didn't sleep that night. Neither did his brother Wikasa, who had noticed his absences long ago but never spoken of them until now. "It's the settler girl, isn't it?" Wikasa asked by the fire, voice low. Tahu didn't deny it. "I love her." Silence hung between them, broken only by the snap of wood in flame. "Then prepare," Wikasa said, "because her people are coming with guns, and our elders already whisper your name like it's poison." The next morning, Tahu stood before the council, surrounded by painted faces and wary eyes. "You've brought danger with your heart," said an old warrior. "Love doesn't shield arrows." Tahu didn't flinch. Love doesn't shoot them either. But his words fell like stones. They voted to move the camp deeper into the valley, far from the ridge, away from her. Meanwhile, Clara's world was falling apart. Her father had ordered Matthew and 2 ranch hands to scout the forest edge. "Shoot if you see them," he'd said coldly. "This ain't just about land now, it's about principle." Clara pleaded, but her words were dust in the wind. That evening she packed food, slipped out through the barn, and galloped toward the ridge. She had to warn him in person, had to see him one more time before the world turned entirely to flame. She reached their glade breathless, clutching hope like a thread. But he wasn't there. Only the flute, left upright in the ground like a grave marker. She dropped to her knees. "Please, Tahu, please!" Behind her, a sound. She turned, and there he was. Breathless, mud-streaked, wild-eyed. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "They moved camp. It's done." "Not for me," she whispered. "I'll leave them. I'll go with you." His face twisted in pain. "You don't know what that means." "I don't care." He reached for her. Then a gunshot cracked through the woods. Clara screamed. Tahu shoved her down as bark exploded behind them. Another shot. Then silence. In the distance, a rider fled. Matthew. He had seen everything, and now he wasn't just angry, he was armed, and war had just become personal. Matthew didn't speak when he returned to the ranch. He roared. He slammed through the cabin doors, rifle still warm, eyes wild. "She was with him," he growled, "in his arms, like it meant something." Their father went still. "You sure?" "I saw it. Would have hit him too if she hadn't moved." That night, they sharpened blades, counted bullets, and fed the fire of a war they felt was righteous. Clara was locked in her room. "Until we figure out what to do with you," her father had said. "You ain't our daughter right now. You're just a disgrace." She cried, not from shame, but fury. She pounded her fists on the door, screamed through the walls. "You don't know him. You don't even want to." But no one listened. Miles away, Tahu held the flute again. His hands trembled, not with fear, but rage. "They tried to kill her," he told Wicasa. "Her own brother." "This is what they do," Wicasa said. "They punish what they can't control." "Then I'll take her away," Tahu said. "Now. Tonight." But Wicasa caught his arm. "You'll bring death on both of you." Tahu turned, eyes fierce, "Then let death find us together." That night, beneath the crescent moon, he rode toward the ranch, silent as the wind, cloaked in resolve. He waited until the house quieted, then crept to the window Clara had described. A low tap. Her face appeared, pale, swollen, desperate. "I can't get out," she whispered. "They barred it from outside." "Then I'll break it," he said. She shook her head. "Number, wait. There's a way through the cellar. Come back tomorrow, at dusk. I'll meet you there." He nodded, then vanished. But what neither of them saw, what neither heard, was Matthew's shadow watching from the shed. He'd followed the noise. He'd seen the whisper. And in the morning, while Clara sat silent at breakfast, pretending she'd dreamt him, Matthew slipped out the back with his rifle. 2 men, and vengeance boiling in his veins. By the time dusk came, Clara had escaped through the cellar and raced to the meeting point. But it wasn't only love that waited in those woods. It was the barrel of her brother's gun. And not even she could stop what was coming next. She heard the shot before she saw him fall. One crack through the trees, then Tahu crumpled beside the creek like a bird struck mid-flight. Clara screamed, stumbling down the embankment, slipping in mud and leaves, her hands reaching him before her mind could accept what had happened. Blood soaked his shoulder. His eyes fluttered. "Stay with me," she sobbed. "Please, don't go. Not like this. Not here." Behind her, boots hit the ground hard. Matthew appeared with 2 ranch hands, rifle still smoking, fury burning in his eyes. "Get away from him," he snapped. "You don't know what you're doing." Clara spun around, her voice a blade. "You shot him. He didn't even move." "He reached for something. He reached for me," she cried. The men hesitated, suddenly unsure, watching her cradle the bleeding warrior like he was the only thing that mattered in this world. "You bring shame to this family," Matthew spat. "Then I want no part of this family," she replied. She ripped the scarf from her neck and pressed it to Tahu's wound. "He needs help, now." "He's a savage," one of the ranch hands muttered. "He's a man," Clara said, eyes blazing. "And if he dies, it's on all of you." Something in her voice struck deep, enough to make even Matthew pause. Tahu groaned. She leaned down. "You stay with me," she whispered. "Don't you dare leave me now." They stood there, a girl and a bleeding warrior, against the judgment of her blood and the silence of the land. Finally, one of the ranch hands muttered, "There's a cabin nearby. We could carry him. He won't make it on his own." Matthew cursed under his breath, but didn't stop them. Together, grudgingly, they lifted Tahu. Clara never left his side, holding his hand all the way, whispering words that crossed cultures, crossed wars, crossed centuries. That night, while he lay fevered in a bed that wasn't his, her father stormed through the door with fire in his eyes. But Clara stood between him and the wounded man. "If you touch him," she said, "you'll lose me forever." Her father looked at her, really looked, and realized something too late. This wasn't just a girl in love. This was a woman who'd chosen her side. The fever broke by morning. Tahu opened his eyes to a ceiling he didn't recognize, and the first thing he saw was Clara, curled beside the bed, her hair tangled, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion and defiance. She jolted upright when he stirred. "You're here," she breathed. "You stayed." He tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She lifted a tin cup to his lips and helped him drink. Only when he finished did she let herself break into tears. "I thought I lost you." "Not yet," he rasped. "Not ever if I can help it." But outside, trouble still brewed. Her father paced the porch like a storm barely held back. The men argued among themselves, some saying they'd done enough, others demanding the Lakota be pushed farther off the land. Clara walked outside just as they spoke her name. "She'll bring the whole tribe down on us," one muttered. "Maybe it's already too late." Her father turned to her, voice bitter. "You know what they'll do if they come here for him. Blood for blood." "Then speak to them," she snapped. "Tell them we don't want war." "It's too late for that." "It's not," she insisted, "unless you choose it to be." That afternoon, a shadow crossed the hill. Wikasa, Tahu's brother, riding slow, alone, unarmed. Clara stepped onto the porch. "He came," she said, "for peace." The men raised their rifles. Her father barked, "Stand down." Wikasa dismounted with calm purpose. "I come for my brother," he said. "Not to fight, only to see." Clara led him inside. Tahu smiled faintly. "You always knew where I'd end up?" "Half dead in a settler's bed?" Wikasa said dryly. "Maybe I did." But then his tone softened. "You were lucky. That's rare, brother." Wikasa turned to Clara. "You saved him. You could have let him die, and no one would have blamed you." "But I would have blamed myself," she replied. "I love him. That doesn't change with tribe or name." Wikasa looked at her for a long moment, then nodded once. "Then you should hear his name properly. Tahu Tanka. It means great heart." She repeated it softly, reverently. Tahu Tanka. The room fell quiet. For the first time, someone from either side had spoken his name, not as a threat, not as a warning, but as truth. And that truth would either heal them or be the next thing torn apart. The warning came with smoke, a distant column rising past the trees, curling like a curse into the sky. Clara saw it from the porch and froze. Wikasa narrowed his eyes. "That's from the East Ridge," he muttered. "A scouting fire, settlers signaling." Her father stepped outside, rifle in hand. "You brought this," he told her, "by harboring him." Clara stood her ground. "He's done nothing but love me. And that's exactly why they want him gone." Word spread fast. By dusk, every able-bodied man within 5 miles was armed and gathering. Their reason wasn't spoken plainly, but everyone knew. The Lakota had been seen too close, and with a wounded warrior in their cabin, the Maddens had become a symbol, not of union, but of betrayal. Inside, Tahu sat on the edge of the bed, pale but upright. "They won't wait until morning," he said. "If they come tonight, they'll come with fire." Wicasa nodded. "And if our people get wind of it, they'll come too, not to talk." "We need to leave," Clara said. "Now, all of us." "We'll never outrun them," her father snapped. "Not in the dark, not with him bleeding." "Then we stand here," she said. "Together. Or we fall." It wasn't courage that kept her steady. It was clarity. Love had dragged her through fear, bullets, and shame. There was nothing left to be afraid of. Just as the sun dipped behind the hills, riders appeared, figures on horseback, silhouettes like judgment itself. The settlers. Matthew rode at the front. Behind him, men with torches. Wicasa stepped forward, arms raised, unarmed. "No one needs to die tonight," he shouted. "We only want peace." "Peace!" Matthew yelled back. "That died when he touched my sister." "No," Clara said, stepping beside Wicasa. "That's when something good began." Her voice rang out. "If you burn this house, you're not defending your land, you're burying your soul." For a long breath, silence. Then a single match was struck. Clara's father stepped forward, rifle raised, not at the Lakota, but at his own son. "You throw that torch, boy," he said, "and I swear I'll never call you kin again." Matthew's hand trembled. The fire licked the edge of the torch. But in that moment, faced with a sister who had chosen love and a father who had finally drawn his own line, he dropped it. And the darkness swallowed the flame. No one cheered. There were no cries of victory, no hands raised in triumph. Just silence. Thick, trembling silence as the torch smoldered in the dirt, and the riders slowly dismounted. One by one, the men who had come to burn a home began to realize what they had almost done, not just to Tahu, not just to Clara, but to everything they claimed to stand for. Her father lowered his rifle first. "Enough," he said, voice cracked with something older than anger. "This girl's made her choice, and maybe for once, it ain't the wrong one." Tahu took Clara's hand and stood, unsteady but proud. "We never asked for war," he said to the crowd. "We asked for nothing but the right to care for each other." No one answered. But no one raised a gun either. And in a land built on grudges, that was as close to peace as it ever got. Wicasa stepped forward. "I'll take him back to our camp. He can heal there." Clara looked to her father. "I go with him." "You'll be marked," he warned, "by both sides." "Then let them mark me," she said. "At least it'll be for love." Her father hesitated, then reached into his coat and handed her the old silver locket, her mother's. "Your ma would have understood," he murmured. "She never did like lines drawn in hate." As Tahu was helped into the saddle, Clara climbed up behind him. The two rode slow, flanked by Wicasa, and watched by a crowd that didn't know whether to follow or forget. Matthew didn't speak. He just turned away. But that night, he didn't sleep either. Somewhere in his bitterness, a seed of something softer had been planted. The stars shone brighter than usual, maybe because no blood had been spilled. Maybe because, for once, a line hadn't led to war, but to something braver. At the edge of the valley, Tahu reached back and took Clara's hand in his. "Still sure?" he asked. She leaned forward, pressing her cheek against his back. "I've never been more sure of anything." Behind them, a house still stood. Ahead, a campfire glowed. And in between, two people dared to exist in the space where bullets could have fallen. But love rose instead. Years passed. But no one forgot that night. Not the settlers who rode home with their torches unlit, nor the Lakota who watched two of their own stand at the edge of both worlds and never fall. Clara and Tahu didn't ask for anyone's blessing. They built their life quietly, on land between the ridge and the river, where boundaries were only marked by the sun's shadow and the sound of wind through pine. They planted corn, raised horses, and when their son was born, they named him Wayaka, Feather of Hope. The council didn't welcome them at first, nor did Clara's old church back in town. But over time, people came, not to judge, but to ask. A mother whose daughter ran off with a ranch hand? A Lakota boy who fell for a settler girl and didn't know what to do. They came with questions, and Clara and Tahu answered not with sermons, but with the truth of a life lived in love's shadow. One spring afternoon, years later, Matthew arrived unannounced, older, quieter. The fire in him had dulled into something more reflective. Clara saw him from the porch and walked out slow. "You came?" she said. "Didn't think you would." "Didn't think I ever would either," he replied. He looked at the boy playing near the fence. "Hey, yours?" "Ours," she said, nodding toward the field where Tahu worked with Wakasa. "That's his uncle teaching him how to ride." Matthew took off his hat. "Looks like he's got your fire." "And his father's heart," she added. There was a long pause. "I hated you for a long time," Matthew said quietly, "because I didn't understand. But I've been alone a long time too, and hate never gave me peace." Clara placed a hand on his arm. "You don't have to carry that anymore." He nodded, eyes wet. "I came to meet my nephew, if that's allowed." "It always was," she said. That evening they sat around the fire, settler and warrior, brother and sister, child and future. No one told the old story aloud, but it lived in the way Tahu held her hand, in the way their son laughed without fear, in the way the stars lit up the sky like a promise kept. They hadn't ended a war, but they'd built something stronger, a family, a legacy, a truth no bullet could ever erase.